Intellectual Property is proudly brought to you by Adams and Adams, rooted in 100 years of excellence in intellectual property law.
Good evening, I'm Stefan Lamprecht, and thanks for joining us tonight on the Intellectual Property Show. Many people still view patents and trademarks as business or legal concepts with little relevance to their own lives. To address this gap, World Intellectual Property Organization member states decided in 2000 to designate an annual World Intellectual Property Day. And this is to be celebrated on the 25th of April. This day seeks to educate people globally of what intellectual property is and the significance it has in improving their welfare and quality of life. To mark this momentous occasion, I'm joined in the studio by our own Minister for Science and Technology, Mosibudi Mangena. Welcome to the show, Minister.
Thank you very much.
Minister, we talk about intellectual property, trademarks, patents. In the old days, a lot of people thought this to be the domain of the developed countries. But I know our government is very much committed to innovation, science and technology. Can you give us some insight why we're so committed to that?
Well, those developed countries are developed precisely because they've been very particular on issues of intellectual property, on patents, copyright, and they are very meticulous when it comes to those things. So we think that it is important, if we are to develop, if we are to look after the interests of our country, our people, and especially of our children in the future, we have got to ensure that we look after those interests ourselves. Now, the South African research environment is quite vibrant. It might be small, but it's big, and it has got quite a lot of talented people, researchers at our universities and science councils, and we spend literally billions of rands every year supporting the CSIR, the universities and other research environments. But we have not been looking after our intellectual property properly, and we are basically a resource-based economy, and those resources like minerals and so on will run out one day. But we need now to build an economy based on knowledge. And so we have got to mine that knowledge that is being produced by our people at our universities and other institutions, protect the intellectual property that arise from that, and move towards this knowledge economy that we've been talking about. But for that to happen, that means we've got to have an intellectual property regime that is well regulated, that's robust, where everyone is conscious and they know what needs to be done in that environment. Presently, that is not the case. We are establishing we've adopted a 10-year innovation plan. It is part of the same thing, and that means, of course, that once that intellectual property rights have been looked after, then we need to find ways and means of mining that. So, and we are establishing the Technology Innovation Agency. Again, it is one more weapon, one more mechanism in the same process that wants to take this country away from resource-based to knowledge-based economy.
So very clear from government, we cannot depend on our mineral wealth and even our natural wealth. But let's look at a different angle to that. South Africa is a resource-based economy currently, but we've also got huge natural resources in the forms of animal and plant diversity. How is your department capitalizing on that benefit that we have that is very, very unique worldwide?
Well, there is an array of legislation and measures that fall under different departments. But my department, in recognizing indigenous knowledge, has an office called the National Indigenous Knowledge Office that is in my office in the Department of Science and Technology. And as you have rightly pointed out, we realize that we are the third most biodiverse country in the world, and we have got up to 1 million species of organisms, whether plant or animal. that are in our country. And the vast majority of our people have for centuries been using this biodiversity for their own survival. But what has been lacking has been research and development in that environment, so that we incorporate that in our system of innovation. And so this office is meant to coordinate efforts amongst different players, other government departments, research institutions, indigenous knowledge holders, practitioners, and so on. Our role is to coordinate the activities and ensure that we patent that knowledge, we register that intellectual property that exists in those communities. We find ways and means of benefit sharing amongst researchers, amongst the people who are active in that environment making a living, but at the same time find ways and means of preserving. We shouldn't only exploit, but we should also preserve so that future generations will be able to benefit from those resources that we have.
Well, you mentioned, I'm amazed, I mean, in terms of the role and the proactive role that government is taking. In previous governments, we never had a Department of Science and Technology. And you mentioned the Indigenous Knowledge Unit, the new Technology Innovation Agency, the public funded IPR bill that is currently under development. So your department has very much got a culture of facilitation and coordinating a lot of these efforts in order for us to capitalize on that knowledge and especially our own indigenous knowledge.
Well, apart from the institutions that we have that fall directly under the Department of Science and Technology, such as the CSIR and others, by and large my department doesn't do any science and innovation itself.
Yeah.
So it depends on the wealth of information and expertise that exists out there. So what we do is we play a facilitating role. We create the environment so that the energies, the expertise, the knowledge, and so on of our people, the skills that they have, might be able to thrive. And we seek to bring everybody on board to the best of our ability, to play a role, but also to make a contribution and to share with us what they know, what is happening at the coal face, because we are not at the coal face. There are people who are in the laboratories as we speak now, doing their work, and they know best what is going on there. And we seek to tease out their own knowledge, their own expertise, and how they see the way forward. And in the process of these many interactions, we learn a lot from the other government departments, from the institutions, from the individual scientists, and so on.
Just a very, very brief question. We've run out of time. I know that you are passionate about the youth. Given that we are celebrating World Intellectual Property Day, what message would you like to broadcast to the youth of this country?
I know that there is lots of expertise in South Africa. We are capable, but sometimes we don't know it. Yeah. And I think that our youth need to know that they can, and that they are able, and they can contribute to what the rest of the world is doing. We should stop believing that we can only use other people's technologies. We can also contribute. They can make things. We can have South African cars, we can have South African cell phones, we can have South African many other things that we can make. What we need to know is to believe in ourselves, to believe that we can actually do it, and the rest will follow.
Thank you very much, Minister Mangena. Thank you very much for a very positive discussion, a very positive message. Good luck with the rest of your work in the department.
It's my pleasure.
I hope you marked World IP Day on your calendar. Join the rest of the world every year in recognizing the need to capitalize on our extensive intellectual assets in order to build a strong and thriving society. From me, Stefan Lamprecht, until next time, good night.
Intellectual Property was proudly brought to you by Adams and Adams, rooted in 100 years of excellence in intellectual property law.